I'm doing something for my niece's project at school and looking at things through her eyes. So I told her something. I said, "You can own the world, you can take over, you can achieve any goal you want to, and be just as broke as Rodney Ham." Do you want to know why? Because of innovative young minds like yours. They don't think like everybody else. We depend on you every single election to bring a new flavor and a new pizzazz to Washington. The reason I say that is because of the man who had the most impact, as far as I'm concerned, in the world up to this day, Bill Gates. Bill Gates was a young man out in Southern California who designed an operating system called DOS. It was a binary code based system. He was a mathematical genius and a marketing genius. But the thing he had more than anything else was self esteem. He believed, therefore you believed with him. He developed this program after he went to school and struggled, and then went to USC and struggled and dropped out. He went home with his hippie self and worked out in his garage and started to have people believe in him and help him. When he was asked about graduating from college, from what I remember, he said, "I learned what I needed to learn and I left." And that's because he's not a fool. He's efficient. He already knows where he's going. He doesn't need elective classes. He needs the information that he wants to apply to his path to success, which led to uh, Silicon Valley and changes throughout our ways to communicate in the world. One of the most powerful and riveting articles you will ever read is Microsoft versus the Big Red Scare. It's about piracy laws, FCC violations, and things such as that done in China, and how Singapore rejected his team as they went over there to try to create sales for Microsoft in the largest buying power in the world, China. And what they did was they went over there to find out that as soon as they developed a new program or new system or new app, it was copied and sold on the street, just like they do at the flea markets. I don't know if you can remember Tommy Hilfiger and Fubar. You can always find the off brand that looks just like it. It's illegal to do that. We overlook it in some settings. When his team came back, they met with Bill Gates, and they were obviously disappointed because they knew there's no way to fight this. It's a cultural issue. They're allowed to do it, it's not against the law. It's sort of set up like that to defeat capitalism at its very core. It's ingenious. It really is. To take away any reason for someone to invent or for someone to do something different or out of the box is the Chinese philosophy. They want their people under command. They don't trust their people because they're doing something that is not promoting liberty. If you get a chance, look the article up. Just type in piracy laws and Bill Gates. It'll get you there. Big Red Scare. Today, I want to talk about something that I think that we can make some changes in, that I've seen some firsthand. I'm going to be trying to sell this, not knowing the battle scars that are worn by some of the people I love the most in the world. And it has to do with a bill sponsored by Representative Mike Gallagher, a Republican out of Wisconsin, I believe, who introduced it in June on the 8th of 2021. He introduced it to the House Energy and Commerce Committees. Uh, the latest action we have is that the House on 6/9/2021 referred to the subcommittee on healthcare, uh, and it passed both House, Senate, and went to the president to become law, I believe. What this bill is it's called the Promissory Pathway Act, or Promising Pathway Act. And what it is it's the FDA and the amount of time that they take to approve innovative new medicines. And there are some dangers, and I do understand the delay. I understand the scrutiny that these things have to go through. What I don't understand is how the lobbyists affect the amount of time. And that's something that is concerning to me. Because you can have politicians hold out on their votes uh, in somewhat of an extortion way, saying, I'm not sure, so make me be more sure. Make me be more secure. Politicians have a lot of power, and I don't think people really sit down and think about that. Even on a local level, they can abuse their positions to better their own personal situation, which is something that I think needs to be scrutinized when seen, even questioned. If you're wrong, you're wrong, but it still needs to be held under the spotlight because of the insurance premiums that they get, because of the long-term health care that they receive, because of the 5-year retirement plans they get while the rest of us work 30 and still don't get one. There's a lot of things that they get as government officials that we don't get. So we need to hold them at higher standards. The Promissory Pathway Act is a bill that establishes a provisional approval pathway for medicines intended for serious and life-threatening diseases, including illnesses posing a threat of an epidemic or pandemic. The period of the provisional approval is for 2 years and is potentially renewable. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, must establish a priority review system to evaluate completed provisional uh, approval applications within 90 days of receipt. A provisional approval application must be approved if the FDA determines that one, there is substantial evidence of safety for the drug, and two, there is relevant early evidence of efficiency based on adequate and well-controlled investigations. And a lot of these are done on colleges. They're done in the actual institutions of the Pfizer's of the world. Uh, During COVID-19, an example would be the coronavirus disease in 2019. Pandemic or another epidemic or pandemic, the FDA must accept and review various portions of a provisional approval application on a rolling basis. The manufacturer of provisionally approved drugs must require patients to participate in an observational registry. A manufacturer that fails to comply with registry requirements is subject to civil penalties. A provisional approved drug may be labeled as such. If a drug that receives provisional approval status is not brought to market within 180 days of the approval must be rescinded. The bill also limits the liability of a manufacturer of a provisional approved drug with respect to any claim under state law alleging that that drug is unsafe or ineffective. Private health insurers and federal health care programs shall not deny coverage of a provisional approved drug on the basis of it being experimental. We should be able to sign waivers. I want to get into how much money is put into these insurance companies. I would love to know on a statistical analysis type of spreadsheet to where we can manipulate just like they do. How many people have paid for insurance over decades and never went to the doctor? I have a personal story of paying between $60 and $80 a week for 20 years, uh, give or take, over my lifetime, and only went to the doctor twice. Once for my shoulder, uh, and I don't even remember what the other one was for. Oh, for my, I had an issue I had taken care of. Those two compared to what I paid in leaves a hell of a difference. Also, I lost my house because my wife had a surgery. And when I went to court, they asked if I had signed the waiver on the surgery or the pre qualification paper. And I hadn't. And they said, "You're denied." Something as simple as that on a major surgery where I've paid all this money in. You guys are going to forget to tell me about this big important paper, do the surgery, and then turn around and cost me my house by garnishing my wages. That's how hospitals and insurance companies work together. I could tell you about my first son who was born. There was 30 hours involved in the labor. And what they were waiting on is approval to do a cesarean. I about lost my mind. You mean my son's in there trying to get out of the birth canal and he's sideways and stuck and you're waiting on a phone call? For a person like me, that's a bad situation because I can't understand how you can know how to do this correctly and just stand there waiting for the phone to ring. I didn't say the doctor's name, but that's how quick things can turn. There are families out there, and I'm sure there's two different stories for everything I'm talking about. But let's just say that they've got a medicine and it's worked for a buddy of theirs. And oh my God, it's going to extend or create quality of life that we didn't know was here. Can you imagine the elation and the joy? Only to find out that your insurance carrier doesn't believe what you're saying. Doesn't want to try sitting in an office in Dubuque somewhere. Can you imagine how deflating and how disheartening that would feel? While these insurance companies sit back and cash out on marijuana, they sit there and they dump drugs in Mexico that they create for something like blood pressure and turn around and sell it for some type of sleeping pill. These are examples of things that happen. If they're not humanitarian enough to be concerned and just take the loss on their experimental drug that they dumped in Mexico, then why can't we decide for ourselves as libertarians in the United States of America, free to pursue our own happiness? And if it's all that, give me the option to put my own money in the bank. Don't hold me to whatever my company decides is the best and most profitable for them to carry. And that's not a shout out at Miss Krebs. I love her to death. But we don't know the backslapping side deals that go on between insurance companies, the companies that are out here, and people, who get invited to go play Pebble Beach, uh, you know, as long as they sell so many Suboxones to my son. It's interesting stuff. You get into some of these perpetual pain clinics and the way that they do business. Um, I would venture to say Suboxone don't work, and I got firsthand information on it. Maybe it's worked for some, it didn't work for mine. They told him he'd been on it for 6 months and he'd be off methadone. And guess what happened? He got addicted to Suboxone. Still takes the methadone, probably. He didn't do a damn thing except for cause him not to work anymore because his bones and shit hurt when he don't have it. You know what they did all that for? To start getting people off alcohol. It's the rabbit and carrot routine while they drain you dry. Now let's talk about frivolous money out here so that we can pour it into research. This isn't going to be popular. It's not going to win me any elections. Look at these congregations of conglomerate believers in faith. I have done the math since I was a child, and I don't go to church over it because nobody ever asks the question of where is this money going? I'm not talking about your small mom and pop types. I'm talking about these big ones, the national chains, where people like Benny Hinn have 3 services and make $30 billion plus. Seen in every country on 700W or 700 Club and all that. Those monies that are used can be diverted into things like better medicines, things like educating people, and creating a less ignorant society. The one that is based in science, understanding, and allowing people to believe in God, but at the same time, not shaming the people who don't.